Poland has declared its ambition to become the strongest military power in Central Europe. A NATO spending leader already, Warsaw is aiming at twofold expansion of its armed forces, even though this will entail huge costs and defy demographic trends. Can it succeed? Polish Minister of Defense Mariusz Blaszczak said that his country wants to create the strongest land forces among European NATO countries. The minister asserted Poland's intentions in an interview with CSE magazine, excerpts of which were published on Sunday. The defense minister also stated that neighboring country Russia and its ally Belarus needs to be deterred with a powerful military, and therefore, Poland is preparing itself to become large and strong enough to deter aggressors. The Polish army must be so numerous and so strong that its very existence scares away the aggressor. Kremlin potentates do not attack the strong, they attack when they see weakness, Blaszczak was quoted as saying. Tons of heavy armor will soon be rolling off the transport ships and rail ramps across Poland this year. The mighty M1A2 Abrams tanks have been regular visitors here since 2017, when the U.S. Armored Brigade was the first sent to reinforce NATO's eastern flank in response to Russia's first offensive against Ukraine. But now, at another time of Russian aggression against Ukraine, these tanks will belong to the Polish armed forces rather than the US Army, and they will be sent to a different place, to the lowland plains east of Warsaw, a traditional place for major battles with Russia. The arrival of the heaviest military equipment in the West will herald the Polish government's pledge from July 2021 to radically increase the country's defense capabilities and to expand the Polish armed forces to a staggering 300,000 personnel, a combination of the regular professional army and part-time volunteer territorial defense force, which was created in 2017. Given that the current numbers are, respectively, 113,000 regular active servicemen and women and 32,000 TDF, this would entail a doubling of the army's size. According to experts, that's a tall order which may never ultimately be delivered. The sense of heightened alert in Poland has been amplified by several events over the past year. The previously mentioned Abrams tank procurement, due to arrive in a few months' time, will be the most substantial so far at a cost of 23 billion zlotys, €5 billion. In an effort to make the Polish army great again, Blaszczak is clearly making it overwhelmingly technologically dependent on Washington, since the deals rarely stipulate offset arrangements that would benefit local producers. Yet even with these huge deals in the pipeline, the Polish armed forces are far from modern. Neglected for 20-plus years, they still use equipment originating from Cold War times. Thomas Dmytryk, an analyst at the New Military Technology Monthly, recently published data that shows the vast majority of Poland's tanks, fighting vehicles, helicopters and Navy vessels have not been replaced or upgraded for some 30 to 40 years. Some specimens would even qualify as items of national heritage, being 50 years old and up. According to Dmytryk, even with the increased spending it will take at least another decade, if not two, to replace and upgrade the existing equipment to modern standards. An expansion of the army in numbers will impede the pace of modernization, which is already sluggish, and will move it beyond any realistic timeframe, he tells Bern. But even if costly and difficult to maintain, experts say the gear is the easier part of Poland's defense vision. The principal problem, they say, is the vision itself. The last time Poland had an army of such size was when the country was part of the Warsaw Pact, 1955 to 1989, and existed to reinforce the Red Army. But even though the Polish army was the second largest in the communist bloc, it wasn't designed by the Poles and did not serve their interests. The newly democratic Poland that emerged from communism in 1991 had neither the money nor the strategy to maintain the upkeep of a few 100,000 conscripts. It thought that the bonds with the West would provide security, and Russia's relative weakness didn't require a huge army either. During its time in NATO since 1999, Poland has spent a lot on out-of-area requirements. Poland maintained a substantial presence in both Afghanistan and Iraq during the NATO-led and US-led operations there, which cost the Defense Ministry 6.5 billion zlotys, according to the Operations Command. When Putin's revanchist agenda became clear during the 2008 war in Georgia, it took years before Poland's government under Donald Tusk's Civic Platform, 2007 to 2015, forged an ambitious modernization plan. Even then, it did not halt the reduction of personnel below 100,000, a significant size for Europe's average, but no match for the Russians. The core of the plan was to invest in new technology, not large numbers, long-range precision weapons, layered air defense, drones of all sorts, sensors and NATO-integrated data links. PiS criticized the structural changes as disarming Poland and, since returning to power in 2015, has set the expansion of the armed force numbers as its goal. Yet after 7 years in power, and despite intensive recruitment efforts and hiking military wages above the average, the government has only managed to raise the numbers of the professional army by 13%. And at 32,000, the volunteer TDF stands well below its intended size of 50,000. The goal of a total 300,000-strong fighting force seems as distant today as it has ever been. And it is becoming much more difficult to reach in the future.